So I think that the most competitive arena where the major camera manufacturers battle it out is when it comes to the mid-range enthusiast mirrorless market. I mean, sure, the pro bodies, that gets all the fanfare, you know, that's got a lot of pizzazz, but that is really a specialized tool for working professionals. And then entry level doesn't bring a lot of tech to the game. Certainly that's where most people start, but it's that mid-range enthusiastic market where we see very powerful, versatile, but still somewhat affordable cameras, good enough that a lot of professionals might still use them for their high-end work, but also super versatile for enthusiastic photographers that want to do the best work they can do. Now, Sony have been towing the line with their now venerable A7 IV, which is starting to feel a little bit long in the tooth. Nikon, of course, came out with the Z6 III, partially stacked sensor, some very innovative technology, and they're doing great with that. And Canon have the R6 Mark II, which is a fantastic overall enthusiast camera. But you know, Canon have been doing a lot of work recently to revamp their professional line with the R1 and the R5 Mark II. But now, what about this mid-range enthusiast market? Well, they've decided to come out with this, the Canon EOS R6 Mark III. Not much time has passed, but it's always great to see more innovative products. Can this now put pressure on the Z6 III and the A7 IV? I'm Chris Niccolls, this is PetaPixel, this is the R6 Mark III. So the Canon EOS R6 Mark III's got dual card slots. You're gonna like that. We've got a single CF Express Type B slot and then a UHS-2 SD card slot. And the CF Express card that I'm gonna choose to use today is the OWC Atlas Pro cards. I really like these because, first off, they're powerful, but they're cost effective. They're not their most expensive card, but I love this for like a mid-range enthusiast camera, and they're still plenty fast. I mean, this thing is gonna write up to 3,000 megabytes per second. It's gonna read up to about 3,650 megabytes per second. It'll certainly handle high resolution video and even the raw recording that this camera is capable of. So I really love these. They're rugged and reliable. I can use the OWC phone app to make sure I've got the latest firmware, and I can use OWC's Innergize software to make sure that these are healthy. It can clean the card up, delete files permanently and safely. I just really like having that backup. So check these out. Link is in the description below. So from a handling standpoint, we basically have a very similar experience that we had on the R6 Mark II, which is not a bad thing because these are really nice full-featured enthusiast cameras. We effectively have the same grip, the same kind of layout control structure and body dimensions. This is slightly heavier by about 30 grams, 699 grams in total weight, but otherwise we get nice features like a fully functioning autofocusing joystick, nice position of the AF on button. We've got the selector switch for both photo and video to keep them separate. You know, we've got the back dial, the front dial, everything feels very familiar. So I really like the command structure on this. What we do have also is basically the same displays. 3.69 million EVF in here, essentially the same as we had before, and a fully articulating 1.62 million back panel. So it feels very familiar other than some very minor changes. So we've got some new stuff now on the top and bottom of this camera. So we've got an updated hot shoe, still works with the older Canon flashes, all exactly the same as it used to, but we now have that multifunction electronic connectivity in the front of the hot shoe, which adds a whole bunch of accessories. I mean, it adds new flashes, it adds new audio and video accessories, so that's really nice to have that modernized. And then on the bottom of the camera, we have a brand new battery. Now, we've seen this before in the R5 Mark II and the C50. This is the LPE6P battery, but it does promise better battery life than the R6 Mark II. If you choose to use the older batteries in here, you're going to lose some functionality. I mean, some Wi-Fi support, things like more advanced record modes in video, and a few other features that honestly don't make it worth using the older batteries unless you're in a real pinch. I would just make sure that you stock up on some of the new LPE6P style batteries. One of the other exciting things about the mid-range enthusiastic market is we often see a lot of cool sensor technology. I mean, when the Sony A7 IV came out, they put a 33 megapixel sensor in that, which really upped their the resolution game in the mid-range cameras. Then Nikon came out with a partially stacked 24 megapixel sensor, and that gave us really fast burst rates and fast scan speeds. And then Canon come out with their C50 video camera, and this has a brand new sensor. Remember, Canon make their own sensor technology, and they've got this new 32 megapixel full frame sensor, and it turns out to be quite fast in its read speeds and really good for video. And then you're thinking, like, wouldn't that also be really nice in a photo camera? Well, lo and behold, now we got the R6 Mark III, and guess what sensor we have in here? Now, I'm going to test a little bit later on things like dynamic range, that kind of stuff for sure, but what I do want to get across here is we're not really seeing a big jump in burst rates, which is to say this camera can shoot 12 frames per second in mechanical mode. That's very impressive, but that's the same as what we had before, and actually, again, a little bit slower than Nikon Z6 III's 14 frames per second, but also it shoots 40 frames per second electronic shutter mode, and that is still the same that we had before in the R6 Mark II. The nice thing is it will do that and shoot full RAWs. What we do now get though is a new pre-capture burst mode, and I really like this on a lot of other brands of cameras. We didn't have it before on the R6 Mark II, so it's really nice to see that now come down from the Pro Canon bodies into the R6 Mark III. Now we do have an improvement to the IBIS, the in-body image stabilization, 5 axes in the R6 Mark III, but it's a slight improvement. This is now giving us 8.5 stops, SEPA rated in the center of the image. To give context, the R6 Mark II had 8 stops, the Nikon Z6 III has 8 stops, but I guess this gives it just a slight advantage. Regardless, the fact of the matter is, IBIS now, we're spoiled nowadays. It's great to have it in bodies. I really like it if I'm going to use glass that's not image stabilized or adapted, so I like having that option here in this body. Any improvements? I'll take them. So one of the things that I really appreciate about the Canon R6 Mark III is its autofocusing performance, because it's downright bullish without a lot of the bullshit. So here's what I'll say about it. I mean, I feel first off that Canon have really improved their AF game since the EOS R1, the R5 Mark II, and it's nice to see now the R6 III having very dependable autofocus performance. So we get very similar subject detections to what we've seen before. You know, Canon keep it simple. You just have people, animals, and then vehicles. There is an auto selector as well if you want to use that, but I prefer to specifically set my subject detections. It's got great eye and face detect, picking up faces from long distances, focusing on the eye accurately. Canon have always done a fantastic job as well with animal detect. That's never been a problem. And I also like just the tracking for non-specific subjects, just inanimate objects that I want to put a focusing point on and have it follow around. It's quite tenacious and it will adjust in continuous. So overall, I find the autofocus experience really simple to use and really reliable. Like all Canon cameras, if I'm going to use this more for sports and action, I'll definitely want to go in and tweak some of my AF settings to be very specific to whether a subject is rapidly appearing in the frame, or if I need to like have it lock on to one subject or be willing to change rapidly. But if you do all that work, this actually does a fantastic job with pretty much any situation you put it up against. So today we actually happen to be shooting on October 31st, Halloween, which is super fitting because I want to talk about the sponsor for today's episode. It is the Payboo card from B&H Photo Video. This is a really exciting product because look, sales tax is something that really eats into your purchasing power, especially when you're buying expensive, high-priced stuff like cameras and lenses. That sales tax can really add up. And the beautiful thing about this Payboo credit card is you pay the tax and then B&H Photo Video will pay that sales tax back to you right away, basically eliminating that cost completely. And I like that it's not complicated. There's no points. There's nothing to redeem like that. You don't have to like file for anything. You just get that sales tax back instantaneously. But I do have to mention, unfortunately, it is only for our American friends down below the border. It's not for us Canadians, but the big World Series game is tonight, so maybe we'll at least take that. And this Payboo card isn't just for cameras and lenses. It'll actually work for pretty much anything you'll find on the B&H Photo Video website. But this card is more versatile than that because it also offers financing options. So if you need that camera gear right now, but you want to stretch your budget out a little bit, you can use the Payboo credit card at B&H Photo Video, and then you can get 6 months or 12 months of financing. Just spread those costs out over a longer period of time. And I just want to remind you guys that Payboo is a credit card, so use it responsibly. Make sure you don't go outside your means, and you do have to get approved for the card. So you'll see a link across that you can use on the screen right now, and this is going to give you a ton of information. It'll also bring you to that approval process. Also keep in mind, you can also click in the link in the description below for more details. Now let's go to Jordan. He's going to talk about the video features on the R6 Mark III.
All right, it's Jordan here to talk about the video capabilities on the R6 III that is filming me right now in C-Log 2. But we recently reviewed the C50. Well, I didn't. My idiot twin brother Gordon reviewed it. And this camera shares most of the video functionality for that. So if you want to deep dive into the video recording functions, check out that C50 review. I was really surprised how much of the functionality of the C50 carries over in the R6 Mark III. We get a full-size HDMI port, a tally lamp on it, and hey, you can record an open gate like we are right now, which gives you tons of reframing flexibility in post. Now, one key thing I do definitely want to mention is with the C50, if you were shooting in the 4K record modes up to 60p, it was always an oversampled image. So really detailed, great in low light, where when you jump over to the R6 III, you have to choose. So you'll have standard 4K recording and then you'll see 4K fine. If you're worried about the quality at all, fine is definitely the option that you want to select. One issue I've had with a lot of Canon's mirrorless cameras is the lack of assist tools on them, and a lot of the time they'll actually disappear when you start recording. Things like your level or your histogram would suddenly vanish. And I'm really happy with the R6 III. Your level is on, whether you're recording or not. I did find the histogram was disappearing when I started recording, but that's actually not a big issue, because if you know how to read a waveform, the R6 III does give you waveforms, and they stay on screen while you're rolling. Okay, so what does the R6 III lack compared to the more video-focused C50? Well, you don't get the XLR handle, which is really nicely designed and included free with the C50. You don't get as many different video recording options. There's a bunch of different options, including for RAW video on the C50, where this only has one option for RAW video recording. The C50 is covered in mounting points, and as well, it has a locking timecode port on it. But the biggest one is that the C50 has a fan. So let's talk about the thermals on the R6 III. So given that you have the option to choose between standard recording and fine recording, I was a little bit concerned that the fine recording was going to give us a lot of overheating problems, but in most of the record modes, even shooting fine, I was able to shoot for over an hour and wasn't even seeing an overheat warning in the camera. The only exception to that is if you shoot the fine 4K 60, there the camera shut off after 28.5 minutes. Now, if you're just using 4K 60 for the occasional slow motion clip, that's not going to be a problem at all. But if you shoot all of your A-roll in 4K 60, then yes, you might run into some situations with heat and have to jump over to the C50. So yeah, the C50 does have some video functionality that's lacking in the R6 III, but the R6 III has two things I find absolutely invaluable for the way that I like to shoot that isn't offered in the C50, and that's that we get very effective IBIS, and Canon's IBIS has really improved in video recording over the last few years. As well, this has an electronic viewfinder, which is quite a bit sharper than the LCD, makes it a lot easier to check focus, and if you're in direct sunlight, I love to shoot with an electronic viewfinder. So for me, actually, the R6 III is the better of the two video tools. But if you're doing high-end production, television, broadcast, that's where the C50 might be a good option for you. But for the majority, I'd go R6 III.
Okay, let's take a deeper dive into this new sensor that we've seen only before on the Canon C50 video camera. We are getting a substantial increase in megapixels from the R6 Mark II, from 24 to almost 33 megapixels. And I mean, it's always nice to have that extra resolution, and I think it hits a really nice sweet spot between the 24 megapixels, which is ubiquitous on the market, and the 45 megapixel sensors you find in the higher end cameras. But as I said before, this is not a stacked or partially stacked sensor, so does it scan fast? Well, pretty decently. I'd say we're going to get about the same scan speeds that we have on the R6 Mark II, which is still an improvement considering that we are getting those extra megapixels, but don't expect to get any less rolling shutter, so keep that in mind. I mean, the Z6 III is still going to be a faster scanning sensor overall. But I also want to talk about dynamic range, because on the R6 Mark II, we noticed a big difference in the actual dynamic range quality from when you shot mechanical shutter versus electronic shutter, with a fairly big drop in dynamic range going to electronic shutter. And if, of course, you use the C50, which is a video camera but also intended to take some photography, you don't get a mechanical shutter at all. You only get electronic shutter. So are we having as big a hit here? Well, Fortunately, it's actually not that big a hit. As you can see here, we are losing a little bit of detail primarily. The noise looks about the same, a little bit more color noise if you shoot electronic shutter and really push those shadows, but mostly we're just gonna have a loss of detail, but it's not as extreme as we saw in the R6 Mark II. Maybe a stop, maybe not even quite a full stop. That being said, if I was picking between the R6 Mark III or the C50, and I wanna shoot a lot of photography and I'm really concerned about dynamic range, I would absolutely wanna have the mechanical shutter that I find in this camera. But I think that Canon get to hit a little bit of a sweet spot here with their new sensor on the R6 Mark III, because if you look at the competition, you got cameras like the Panasonic S1 II, the Nikon Z6 III, that are using very good fast scanning sensors, but at lower resolution. And then if you look at the Sony a7 IV, you get the same resolution, but not as fast scanning a sensor. The R6 III kind of gives you the best of both worlds. So it looks like Canon has a very versatile camera that's a true hybrid for both high-end photo and video, but how does it compare to the other options? Well, the first thing I actually want to compare it to is the R6 Mark II, because Canon is not discontinuing that as of this time. It's still going to be available. So the R6 Mark II, I mean, it's a good camera. It's about $500 less right now at the time of this video coming out. Are you getting your money's worth here? I think so, because we are getting substantial improvements. I mean, certainly better resolution, nice fast scanning speeds, but also when it comes to photography, improvements to the autofocus, even the buffer as well. I mean, this will shoot quite a bit more. I'm gonna get over 300 JPEGs in a row before it has to slow down in RAWs or RAW plus JPEG, 150 shots, thanks to that CF Express Type B slot. That's basically double what the R6 Mark II can do. You know, battery life's also improved thanks to the new LPE6P battery. I mean, we're getting just over 500 CP-rated shots in normal operation, so you're gonna have good longevity there. And of course, this is a far more capable video camera than the R6 Mark II. So if we look at the other cameras, well, you know, the Nikon Z6 III, that camera is gonna be a pretty similar price. And again, great hybrid camera as well. Maybe a little bit suited for faster shooting, but this does give us that resolution increase. Cameras like the Panasonic S1 II are still going to be more capable video platforms overall, but they're not going to have the same autofocus performance as this, and they are going to still be a more expensive camera as well. And the Sony a7 IV, frankly, is getting a little bit long in the tooth, so although you save a little bit of money, I do think this brings more to the table. I have to say I really enjoy the R6 Mark III experience because it's probably the most well-rounded camera in its class right now. You know, kind of sits right in the middle of price points, gives us great image quality, high resolution, fast focusing, good burst rates, excellent video. I mean, this camera really doesn't have any weak points. It does everything quite well. And so if you're looking for a camera that can handle pretty much any task that you come across, whether you're a working professional or an enthusiast photographer or videographer, I think there's a lot of appeal here, and I hope you guys got that from our review. Of course, though, we always appreciate your comments, so let us know what you think. Leave those down below. Check out the PetaPixel podcast as well, this same channel or all your favorite podcasting apps. Do consider also supporting us with a PetaPixel.com membership, $3 a month, $30 a year. You get big discounts on our merch store, on Gauge.com. You get money back on the Moment store, and you can also see the JPEG and RAW sample galleries that we take with the gear that we review. We really appreciate you joining us. We'll see you soon with more on PetaPixel.